another NBA 2K roster update video. Today is March 28th, 2024. NBA 2K dropped the 8th official 2K ratings update of the season. Going to go ahead and break it all down. Jumping right into it, just want to say there's a couple things that stand out to me. The badges just don't seem to be getting upgraded this year, up or down a lot. John Markish, which is the Real 2K Insider, put a lengthy post. You could read it over on Operation Sports. In that post, he kind of explained where badges are at this point. It's very, very lacking and disappointing overall if you look at the badge updates and how they correlate with the attributes in the game to help make the player ratings. A big sweep of an update at least once a year in 2K during the season would be ideal, preferably in that week between the All-Star break. They could get a lot of guys updated and do that. That's just my opinion. But it does make a big difference overall for where things are. What's up, Rez Tez? Good afternoon to you, man. A little late with the video today. Had some things going on. Feeling what's going on. Just the badges to me, if you've played my career, you've played the gameplay for the WNBA and the NBA side of things offline, you can tell the badges make the biggest difference. The attributes are what they are at this point. I think the scales are a little archaic in a sense with the attributes, so the badges are there to modify the players even more to make them stand out, to be individualized. And with the badge changes not occurring very often on players, or at least an in-depth sweep of teams to look at what players don't have badges, like a Harrison Barnes or a Jabari Smith, who have been multiple years and they don't have badges. Obviously, Jabari Smith is a younger player than Harrison Barnes, but there's no excuse for Harrison Barnes to have 0 badges at this point. Sticking with the badges, I'm going to show you, right there, Harrison Barnes is a 78 overall. If you add badges to him appropriately, he'd probably be about an 80 overall there. Then if you go over to Jabari Smith, obviously he's already in at 81, so that's why they don't really want to add badges, because he's already got a high enough attribute. But what happens, and a lot of you know this that are roster content creators, they fluff this intangibles rating. There's no reason he has a 95 intangibles. You can knock that down to an 80 intangibles, which is where it's scaled for starters, and then you could then add a couple badges to him, and it brings him back up to that 81 easily. There's no reason why there's no in-depth rating, sweep along with badges at the same time. Another big one that you could look at is a guy that they put like a Jalen Williams, where they stat pad badges on to get a higher rating because of the formula with the power forwards not really fitting Jalen Williams' style. What's up, Kerry? That's just how it is overall. But just wanted to kind of preface that there's some position changes I'll mention as well in this update, but overall, so-so update in my opinion. There's some missing stuff that I would have added. I'll go over that as I go through, but let's jump into it with the actual changes. So Philadelphia 76ers starting first. Tobias Harris goes -1 to an 82 overall, +1 for Payne to a 77, +1 for Bamba to a 75, and then Jeff Dowtin Jr. goes +2 to a 71. Just looking at the stats overall, I kind of pieced my stats together, maybe a little different than 2K does, but I ran stats from March the 5th all the way up until March 27th, the games ending on Tuesday night, because 2K does not count the games on Wednesday night, so I didn't count those into my stats. But if you look at Tobias Harris, 14 points a game, 41% from the floor, 21% from three. Payne, 42% field goal percentage, 38% from three. Mo Bamba has been starting, 5 points, 5 rebounds, 52% from the floor, 41% from three. And then Jeff Dowtin's got rotation minutes at 5 points a game, 3 assists on 58% field goal percentage in 13 minutes. Obviously, small sample size, but if you look at the Sixers overall, since March 5th, they're 4-8. Obviously, need Joel Embiid back in a big way. Also, looking at them, like Buddy Hield's been coming off the bench behind. He actually subs for Kyle Lowry. And then Maxey obviously switches back to the point guard spot. But, that's the changes for the 76ers. Moving over to the Milwaukee Bucks, their changes immediately stands out. Khris Middleton, +1 to an 86 overall. Brook Lopez drops -1 to an 81 overall. And then Pat Connaughton goes +1 to a 73 overall. I want to look at real quick Pat Connaughton's attributes. AJD, underwhelming definitely, for sure. Looks like they upped some of his defensive stats for Pat Connaughton, which is actually good because his defense was vastly underrated, for sure. So I'm glad to see that he got a little bit of a bump with the defensive stats. Looking at the Milwaukee Bucks, I would have put, let me go back up. I would have put Damian Lillard up 24 points a game, 43% from the floor, 41% from three. That's just me personally. I thought Jay Crowder should have went up at least a bump because he is technically the backup small forward there. 7 points a game, 52% from the floor, 44% from three. And then Malik Beasley didn't get touched. I thought he, averaging 13 a game. Obviously, not shooting at the greatest, 41% and 36% from three. But still, I don't really know. I guess because the Bucks are 5-5 since March 5th, maybe they had to figure out how to drop some people overall. But nothing really stands out for the Milwaukee Bucks. One position change to note here, Andre Jackson Jr. Let me go back to the Sixers real quick. They did swap out Ricky Council to small forward, and then Buddy Hield to shooting guard. Let's jump to the Chicago Bulls. They're 5-6 since March the 5th. Their changes, DeMar DeRozan gets the +1, 25 points a game. He deserved it. Actually, if you drop him in small forward, he goes up to an 88. So, Nik Vucevic ends up dropping -1 to an 82. Ayo Dosunmu goes +1 to a 79 overall. Dosunmu, 17 points a game, 48% from the field, 37% from three. Javonte Green has been phenomenal since coming over. Looks like he could steal some rotation minutes from Torrey Craig. They switched out Dalen Terry and Onuralp Bitim for their positions. So they basically swapped their differences there. Bitim gets a +2 to a 72, and then Dalen Terry gets a +1 to a 74. Julian Phillips is now injured with a foot injury, but he goes +1 to a 71 as well. The Bulls 5-6, like I said. At this point, they've been kind of experimenting with lineups, trying to get guys in and out, some experience for some of the best bench guys overall. Not a lot to like about the Bulls. They're treading water right there in the play-in spot. That's kind of where they like to be, I guess. Let's go over the Cavaliers. 5-7 since March the 5th. Changes for them. Georges Niang gets a bump. He goes +1 to a 76. Jarrett Allen goes -1 to an 86. And then Darius Garland, who struggled, goes -1 to an 84. They've got to get Donovan Mitchell back. Now that they've gotten Evan Mobley back, they got to get to full health. We'll see what happens with them moving forward. But I just don't trust the Cavaliers where they are without a healthy Mitchell because he's a lot of what they like to do. So we'll see. They also got Max Strus back from injury as well, so he should help with some shooting. Let's go over the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown finally gets a bump into the 90 overall club, goes +1, 29 points a game on 51% field goal percent, 38% from three, 6 rebounds a game. Only Luka and Giannis are averaging more points per game than Jaylen Brown this month, so well-deserved bump for him. Al Horford goes +1 to an 81. Payton Pritchard, well-deserved, goes +2 to a 78. +1 for Sam Hauser and Luke Kornet as well, both to a 76. Looking at Payton Pritchard, pretty much close to 19 points a game in his last 5 games, 8 assists, 52% or 53%, 52% from three. Really looking good. So I'd expect him to really keep it going as the playoffs go. It's amazing that he originally wanted to be traded from the Celtics and now is a big piece of what they're wanting to do. Let's jump. Oh, and the Celtics are 9-3 since March the 5th as well. So going over to the Clippers, different story for them. 5-6 since March the 5th. They've kind of hit a slide. Coincides with James Harden, I think. Personally, I think he's kind of struggling there. 14 points a game, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. Okay numbers, I guess. But for Harden, only 40% from the floor, 30% from three. He goes -1 to an 86. Meanwhile, the top 2 guys in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard change. Leonard goes -1 to a 92, while Paul George goes +1 to a 90. Paul George, 25 points, 4 rebounds. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 55% from the floor, 47% from three. Good to see that. They do get a healthy Westbrook back. That's going to be huge for them. PJ Tucker goes +1 to a 73, +1 to 77 for Terrence Mann. And I got to change my notes really quick. I mismarked on Operation Sports. I mismarked Bones Highland going up. He did not actually go up. So I want to make that change really quick. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with the Clippers. I believe the Clippers would favor a matchup at 6, so would Dallas, because if you play the 6 seed, you might get either Oklahoma City or Minnesota there as that 3 seed. So if I'm Dallas, the Clippers, the Pelicans, I kind of want that 6 seed. I don't really want that 4 or 5, because then you got to play Denver potentially in the second round, and that's not going to go well for anybody. What's going on, Hugo? Let's go to the Memphis Grizzlies, 3-7 since March the 5th. Not looking great overall. They're getting their young guys minutes. That's pretty much what it's about. Desmond Bane came back from injury. That was key for them. But here, Gigi Jackson goes +1 to a 79. We get Jake LaRavia and Scottie Pippen Jr. both going plus here to 74s. Scottie Pippen Jr. goes +2, LaRavia +1. Trey Jamison goes +2 to a 73. We also get some other players here. DeJoun Jrue goes +2 to a 69. What's interesting is Brandon Clark played last night, and he's still injured, so 2K is not paying attention. Doesn't shock me that they missed that injury while still having Luke Kennard active, who's been out for multiple games with personal reasons. Same with Vince Williams. He's been out almost a month with an injury. I don't foresee him even coming back this season at this point, but they haven't injured them. Like I said, it doesn't shock me. 2K's not very on top of the injuries either. They tried, I think, for a while with the injuries, but they're missing a lot of guys throughout. For whatever reason, guys that miss with personal reasons, they do not injure them. I don't know what it is and why 2K does that, but I guess they have their reasons. Atlanta Hawks, 6-5 since March the 5th. DeJounte Murray has been really good, 26 a game, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 45% from the floor, 40% from three. They actually have a hardship. So Jrue and Pereira are on hardships. So with that, you can have up to 3 hardships, I believe, by the NBA before you have to reapply for a specialty exception to get a 4th or more. With that all year, they've pretty much had 1 to 2 slots extra on the team. 2K has it programmed where you can get up to 20 players that appear in the menu. The NBA's official number is 21 max. So 2K is going to have to change that, recode it this year or in the off season. But for now, they do have technically 16 or 17 players on the team that are active outside of the two-way players. Hawks, looking at them, DeJounte Murray, like I said, he went up 1 to an 87. We get Wes Matthews goes up to a +1 to a 72 overall. Matthews is back in the rotation now that they've had injuries overall. Garrison Matthews also in the rotation as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag for the Atlanta Hawks as they navigate the Trae Young injury and things like that. Oddly enough, Vic Krejci has been starting at small forward, and he only goes +1 to a 71. I don't know what that's about. I would have bumped him more personally, but he had a good scoring output 2 games ago. Has been average, throughout 7 a game, 3 assists, 47 from the floor, 41% from 3. But the big thing when it comes to somebody like a Vic Krejci is his passing is his main attribute overall. They did, update him a little bit, so there's some changes. But he also is a decent above-average defender, so it is what it is. 2K doesn't really change the defensive ratings at all for most players. Let's jump over to the Miami Heat. They are 6-6 since March the 5th, so they only get a small number of changes. Caleb Martin goes -1. Duncan Robinson goes +1, and then DeLon Wright goes -1. Interesting that, Patty Mills has been shooting it awful, but I thought he's been okay, just kind of manning the ship as the point guard for them, along with Terry Rozier. But it is what it is. The Heat could still be scary come playoff time, but they got to get healthy, especially like Tyler Hero, get him back on the same page. Kevin Love, another one there. Jumping over to the Charlotte Hornets, news today, LaMelo Ball is going to be out for the rest of the season. I saw that coming. No Daryl, no retro updates. 2K doesn't do anything with the retro updates later in the season. You're lucky to get one at this point, the way the 2K cycles go. Wouldn't expect much, to be honest. They just don't put any emphasis on updating. It's not a priority. And I'm just being honest, from my point of view. Charlotte Hornets 2-8 since March the 5th. Miles Bridges goes down 1 to an 81, or 80, excuse me. And then Brandon Miller goes -1 to an 81. Trey Mann gets a bump in a position change to shooting guard. He goes +1 to a 77. Grant Williams somehow goes down 1 to a 76. I don't understand that one. Vasily Micic has been the starting point guard. He gets a +1 to a 75. Position changes for Davis Bertans. He gets to put to small forward. Nick Smith Jr. goes -1 to a 73. Change to point guard. Alexei Pokusevski -1 to a 73. And then got a position change for Amari Bailey as well. Not a lot to talk about with the Hornets. They're tanking to be able to get a higher pick. Jazz, pretty much the same thing. Lauri Markkanen doesn't like that they're tanking. Overall, they're 1-9 since March the 5th, so you can see where things are going. Speaking of Markkanen, he goes -1 to an 86. Colin Sexton gets a bump, +1 to an 84. Talen Horton-Tucker, position change the shooting guard, gets a bump to a 77, +1. Chris Dunn, -1 to a 76. Taylor Hendricks, +1 to a 76. And then Bryce Sensabaugh goes +1 to a 72. Luke Samanic goes +1 to a 72. What I don't get is Darius Baisley barely plays, why he's not behind these guys. And then no update for Johnny Jazang or Micah Potter, despite them actually being in the rotation and playing. Nothing changing there for them is kind of odd. Sacramento Kings, looking at them, they're 8-4 since March the 5th. Domantas Sabonis gets a +1 to a 91. Still no bump for De'Aaron Fox. At this point, I'm beginning to think that 2K hates De'Aaron Fox. Keegan Murray goes -1 to an 81. Malik Monk, same thing, -1. We got Kevin Huerter going -1 to a 76. He's out for the season. You see no injury despite a shoulder dislocation. Like I said, I don't know what the hell 2K and their injury tracking is doing. They just don't do a good job with it. Trey Lyles goes -1 to a 75. Keon Ellis should be the biggest mover in this update, but he only gets a +4 to a 74. No badges, of course. So surprise. Surprise, no in 2K. They did update his defensive attributes, which is great. His defensive consistency is only in at 65. That's interesting. But they did bump this intangibles up to 95. That way they can get him up higher instead of actually going through and re-rating him accordingly. I'll be completely honest. If you want a full Keon Ellis breakdown, I would go into the Operation Sports forum and ask the Real 2K Insider, John Markish, if he would do that, because he does it with the badges included. So that gives you a breakdown of where things are or should be with him. Keon Ellis has been phenomenal basically over the month of March. I don't know how he didn't go up more, but is what it is. Going to the Knicks, same thing. Anunoby's out with the elbow injury, and he doesn't even get an injury designation. At this point, I don't get it. The Knicks are 7-3 since March the 5th. Their changes: Hartenstein goes +1 to an 81. Also, Josh Hart goes +2 to an 81, but no bump for Dante DiVincenzo. Injury designation removed for Mitchell Robinson. They did knock down Bojan Bogdanovic -3 to a 77, but then they didn't touch Alec Burks and they didn't raise Miles McBride. McBride's been freaking killing it this month, and he doesn't even get a +1. I don't get it. This is me. If you're going to knock down Bogdanovic, you got to knock down Burks as well. I thought that was a little aggressive for Bogdanovic to go down 3, while no change for McBride or Burks. That's just my opinion. Lakers, the only change I could see, unless I just missed something, was Anthony Davis. He goes +1 to a 95. Obviously, he's been really good. They look like they're going to get Gabe Vincent back soon. Not a lot to talk about with the Lakers. 6-3 since March the 5th. I thought maybe D'Angelo Russell deserved a little bump. I thought that you got guys like Skylar Mays at like a 73, along with Max Christie, and Skylar Mays barely ever plays. Why do you not knock down Skylar Mays to like a 71? Looking at Skylar Mays, you could see, there's some changes that you can make to get him because his passing is not that high. You can get him down at least to a 72, 71. But I'm just nitpicking at this point, I guess. Going over to the Orlando Magic, some changes for them. They are 7-3 since March the 5th. They're on just a tear at this point. They ended up losing their last game, but they've been really good. You got the duo of Banchero and Wagner, but now you've got the emergence of Jalen Suggs, who raises +2 to an 82 overall. Wendell Carter goes +1 to an 81. Markelle Fultz drops down to a 77, -2. Jonathan Isaac gets a well-deserved raise, +3 to a 79. And then Gary Harris gets a bump to a 76. He's a starter at 2 guard when healthy. What's interesting is they flipped Cole Anthony back to point guard, and then Fultz, who kind of is a combo guard, they flipped to shooting guard and point guard, so position changes for them both. Looking at the Dallas Mavericks, they've been hot since March the 5th, 9-2 since then. Kyrie Irving gets a bump, +1 to a 91. Daniel Gafford, well-deserved, +2, bump to an 81. Tim Hardaway Jr. struggling, -1 for him to a 77. And then Maxi Kleber, -1 to a 74. He gets a position change to power forward. No injury for Josh Green despite being out multiple weeks. Don't understand it, like I said, but it is what it is. Brooklyn Nets, they've been really struggling, 2-9 since March the 5th. Mikal Bridges goes -1 to an 84. Cam Thomas +2 to an 82. Cam Johnson goes -1 to an 80. And then Lonnie Walker, the fourth, goes -1 to a 76. Thought that maybe Dennis Schroeder would get a small bump, +1, but nothing here for him. Mikal Bridges is only averaging 16, 4, and 4 on 39% shooting from the floor, 42% from 3. Not going to get it done as the lead guy. Denver Nuggets, they are 9-2 since March the 5th. They get a couple key players get bumps. Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon go +1 each to an 84. Michael Porter Jr. has just been phenomenal shooting the ball the last 8 games. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope gets a +1 bump to a 78. And then Christian Braun, he is another one that is been a key as far as how they've been going. But 2 players dropped in Reggie Jackson and Peyton Watson, both going -1 to 75s. Indiana Pacers, 7-4 since March the 5th. Their big changes, McConnell +2 to an 80. I thought that, there were some other guys that could be changed on the roster, but the only other changes, -1 for Jarris Walker to a 75. Meanwhile, Ben Shepherd's been in the rotation consistently. He gets a +1 bump to a 71. Nothing for McDermott. I thought Toppin could possibly go -1. Even +1 for Siakam if you wanted to, +1 for Halliburton. But I guess with the 7-4 record, 2K decided, well, not good enough, so we're not going to change a lot. But it is what it is. Pelicans, Zion gets a bump, +1 to a 89. I thought he deserved to get a 90. But it is what it is. No jump for Trey Murphy, despite averaging 17 a game on 46% from the floor, 42% from 3, so nothing for him. Najee Marshall does get a bump, +2 to a 76, averaging 10 a game on 52% shooting. And then Jose Alvarado goes -1 to a 76. They're 8-3 since the March 5th cutoff date. Detroit Pistons, 3-9 since March the 5th. They have some changes to them. Simone Fontecchio, even though he's been out, no injury designation for him. Neither for Quentin Grimes. But Fontecchio goes +1 to a 78. James Wiseman gets a +1 to a 77. Tosin and Buowa goes to a 70 overall, +2. And Jared Rhoden goes +1 to a 70 overall. So not a lot to talk about with them. Overall, good to see Wiseman getting some consistent playing time. Toronto Raptors, they have some changes. Gary Trent Jr. Gets a boost. He's been actually on fire since. And I missed one for the. No, I didn't. Looking at the Raptors, Gary Trent's been on fire. 23 a game, 44% from the floor, 37% from three since March the 5th. But the Raptors are 0-11 in that span. He goes +2 to a 79. Position change for Bruce Brown to shooting guard. Grady Dick gets a position change to small forward. Ochai Agbaji, nasty fall he took last night. I hope he's okay. He gets a -1 to a 73. Position change to power forward. Same for Jalen McDaniels. Position change to power forward. Jonte Porter, who is in trouble right now with the betting scandal. We'll see what happens. Gets a +1 to a 73. No love for Javon Freeman Liberty. He doesn't shoot it well, but I thought he deserved at least a bump to a 70, but didn't get it here. Houston Rockets. This is the one that everybody's been waiting on. I've had multiple people ask me, what do you think Jalen Green's going to go up to? I said 85, and here he is in an 85. +4 for him. Amen Thompson goes +2 to an 81. Dylan Brooks +1 to an 80. Jock Landale +4 to a 77. And then Aaron Holiday down here +1 to a 74. But Jalen Green's interesting because go look at his attributes. Defensively, I thought they could have been boosted a little bit better. The intangibles at a 95 is what's cranking him up a little higher. Maybe some badge updates and stuff like that I'd have to comb through, or wait for John to comb through them and post them on Operation Sports if you're curious. But the Rockets are 10-1 since March the 5th, 9 straight wins. I thought that Jeff Green deserved a small boost as well, but he didn't get it. One change total for the Spurs, who at this point are 3-8 since March the 5th. Their one change overall is Trey Jones, +1 to an 80 overall. Next, we go to the Phoenix Suns, 7-4 since March the 5th. Grayson Allen goes +1 to a 79. Then Nasir Little goes -1 to a 73. So not a lot of key changes for the Suns. OKC Thunder, they're interesting. Josh Giddey gets a boost, +1 to an 81. Lou Dort +2 to an 80. Isaiah Joe -1 to a 77. And then Gordon Hayward -1 to a 76. 8-2 since March the 5th for Oklahoma City. Minnesota Timberwolves are 5-3 since March the 5th. Anthony Edwards gets the much-needed boost to a 91. Naz Reid bumped to an 81 overall. Then looking at Jordan McLaughlin, he gets a small bump, +1 to a 75. Luka Garza, spot minutes here and there, gets a bump to a 74, +1. Portland Trailblazers, they're kind of all over the place with development, 2-10 since March the 5th. DeAndre Ayton gets the boost here, +2 to an 85. Anthony Simons goes -1 to a 83, -1 for Grant to a 82. Then we get a pair of defensive big man in Tamari Kamara going +1 to a 76 overall. Jop Reith goes +1 to a 76. And then Delano Banton, who's been playing really, really well, gets a position change to shooting guard, changes to 76. Forgot if I mentioned Jeremy Grant going -1 or not, but he did. Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson goes +1. Then we have Trace Jackson Davis +1. Kevon Looney -1, +1 for Payton, -1 for Saric, and then -1 for Moses Moody, excuse me. They get a position change in Gary Payton II, going to small forward. The Warriors got to look at Houston. They're real close, nip it on their heels. Last but not least, the Wizards. who lost last night but had previously been on a win streak. They have Deni Adbia going -1 to an 81. Then you've got all the way down Rashawn Holmes going +2 to a 75. He's been starting since Marvin Bagley was hurt. Then you have Justin Sampagni going +3 to a 73 overall. Jared Butler gets a +1 bump to a 71, +2 bump for Johnny Davis. And then Jules Bernard +2 to a 70 overall. So, yeah, like I said, not a huge update. I'll wait on John to see what he posts in the Operation Sports Forum to see what badges change, stuff like that. That's really where he deep dives. Maybe a player breakdown of, a player or two overall to kind of see where they are. But, yeah, if you've liked this video, please hit that thumbs up. Yeah, Hugo, it's not good, man. Like, the injuries are missing to, like, Josh Green, Donovan Mitchell, Luke Kennard. Donovan Mitchell looks like he's coming back, but Brandon Clark's not removed. The injury situation is just so baffling. Like, sometimes they'll get it 100%, and other times they just get it not very good. There's always 9 ratings updates for 2K. Sometimes there was 10 in previous years, but not very often. So 3 weeks from now in April is when we'll get another update. So looking forward to going over that with everybody. I think next week is the patch for Season 6. So I'd expect that to be out on Monday. So patch notes should drop late night, early morning for Saturday. And then that way, everybody will get to see if there's any player likeness updates and things like that. So if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, and then subscribe to the channel as I go over all this stuff every week. That's it. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend. I don't expect there to be much else to update tomorrow as far as 2K's side of things. So we probably won't get another roster update till the beginning of next week, but have a safe weekend, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this video and it's after it's being recorded live, then, thanks for tuning in. Please, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell for the notifications if you want a notification every time that I post, and take care.